Welcome back to StabtheDragon Productions for episode number 125. It is August 18th, 2023, and I think the temperature today here in Fort Worth, Texas is going to be about 110 again. So we're here for a fiction book review number 3. Haven't done many of those. Most of my reviews have been history books, particularly about the Vikings. But I do occasionally do a fiction review. So today we're looking at Gunrunner by Larry Correia and John D. Brown. Here's the book, Gunrunner. So just the facts. This book is published by Baen Books of Riverdale, New York, 2021, and it has 596 pages. It is a standalone, but I kind of think that it's the first in a series. Now, Correia is the author of the Monster Hunter International series, of which I have read the first book and need to read some more because it's a very enjoyable series. I also know of Correia from some other authors. I think Tom Kratman mentioned him to me on a Facebook post once, and Michael Z. Williamson, I think, also has. Correia is also in that same community, the gun community, as well as the science fiction community. Now, John D. Brown I have not read before, but he is a prolific author in a few genres. He's a Mormon and lives in Utah, graduate of BYU. And I mention this because it does explain some of the tone of the book, I think, in a positive way. My overall evaluation, this is a fun read for sure. The authors also weave in some very good messages, morals, political commentary. Leadership styles are all discussed in the book in a way that doesn't come across as preachy. It's got everything I like about military sci-fi. The book has a rich plot, great character development, leaves plenty of room for a sequel to develop, which, again, I'm hoping for. My overall grade is an A-, and I'm a tough grader when it comes to books. So this is in the A category, okay? It's, but I'm going to say an A-. Let's talk about the plot. The main plot concerns an independent space merchant ship in the far distant future, known as the MSV Tar Heel. Tar Heel is an obvious reference to North Carolina, which is related to the captain, I think, of the ship. And I like this because that takes place so far in the distant future that it's nice that a state in America is mentioned, and so that shows kind of a positive, optimistic trend in the book that, hey, America's still around, the states are still around in the far distant future. I like that. So little details like that I deeply appreciate. Now, the ship is owned and operated by, captained by Nicholas Holloway, who is a trader, merchant, but smuggler. Okay, he smuggles. He is engaged in stealing and then smuggling weapons of war from the rich, oppressive, tyrannical worlds and governments, and then dealing them to the struggling, poor, oppressed worlds and governments. Think of a space-age Robin Hood, I guess. So within the major plots, you get some rather serious major moral questions right away being discussed, and that becomes a theme in the book, obviously. But the other issue there is tyranny versus liberty, big bad guys versus the good little guys. So that's spread throughout the book. The prologue opens the book dramatically with the Tar Heel and Captain Holloway doing a dangerous rescue operation of a young warrior they've grown to know and love on the rebel side of a civil war on the planet Gloss. The horrors of war are depicted as civilians are being massacred left and right, and Holloway's got a chance to pick up some, so he bypasses many to rescue this soldier, Jackson Rook, along with some civilians who are there with him. And Jackson Rook is a young guy in his early 20s. He's a mech pilot. I think you should think of like the Transformers, sort of. And he's got his brain hacked with slaveware by the enemy, the collective. Okay, so there again, that's a little political commentary right there. The bad guys are collectivists, right? Think Ayn Rand at that point. So anyway, Jackson Rook has he's a mech pilot, so his brain is wired into the AI that operates this big mechanical robot thing. And he and his fellow mech pilots have this slaveware that's been hacked into their system, and so now they're forced to kill the rebels on whose side they originally were. Jackson is then rescued by Holloway, and one of the crew members of the ship is this mysterious lady named Jane. She's the ship's IT chief, so to speak, / miracle worker. In many ways, she portrays the role of Deus Ex Machina in the novel because of her hacking programming, surgery skills, are really like miracles. Jane becomes a love interest for Jackson, but she is so mysterious and she's got a sketchy background, and in the end has her own personal drama and a plot development that again could lead to a sequel. Well done, that. Well, the crew of the Tar Heel and young Jackson go about, after they rescue her and Jane heals his brain, they now, several years later, they have a contract for some weapons, including the most advanced mech in the galaxy, apparently. Again, giant robot warrior machine that the pilot sits inside, and he's linked with the AI and super weapons. And they're to deliver these weapons and this mech, this advanced mech, to the planet Swindle. Well, now there's a name. And its tyrannical leader, known as Warlord. Not the Warlord, but simply Warlord. Lord of War. There you go. The planet Swindle is a character in its own right in the book. This planet has everything that nightmares are made of. And again, I see an element of Correia's previous series, Monster Hunter International, here with all the things that want to kill you, squash you, eat you, and otherwise ruin your day. From the very atmosphere that's corrosive, to the plant life that can poison you or eat you, to all the monsters on the planet, you get non-stop danger. I mean, think Jurassic Park times 20. But the planet provides CX, a plant-based substance that is absolutely critical for the operation of interstellar gates. That's how we travel from star system to star system instantaneously. Now, this raw CX from these plants is more efficient and pure than the synthetic kind that scientists can make. And therefore, this is the primary source, right? It's the only source for this CX. So the profits of the harvesting work on Swindle are ginormous. But so is the cost of harvesting because of all these monsters that live there. The novel shows the dirty underside of this system as it involves galactic politics, slavery, human trafficking, big business that will do anything for a profit. So here you get the heavy moral tone of the book. Captain Holloway, who's eager to retire and go back home to the woods of North Carolina with a fishing pond, he will make enough money on this last run to retire and give all his people on his ship a big bonus, and so he can get out of the business. And it's obvious that he wants out of the business. So that shows that he probably has some concerns about what he's doing, right? But once they're on Swindle, and once they're involved with Warlord, they're now faced with a horrible dilemma. And so will Captain Holloway just close his eyes to the evil role that he has unwittingly been playing? Or will he admit his mistake and act on his new knowledge? This is a beautifully done moral question that pervades the book and is the major substance of the plot. Now, young Jackson, Sergeant Jack is how they call him, he's the upfront, in-your-face, poster boy, pure hero who first sees and realizes that all is not well on Swindle. Imagine that. These business dealings that he has participated in, it is now the truth is coming out, and he doesn't like what he's seeing. Eventually, through circumstances, he is forced to take sides that will imperil his life either way and the lives of his shipmates. He is the one then who must decide to take a stand first. And his example leads others to follow. The loyalty and leadership of Captain Holloway that is tested here is amazing. And the pressure from Holloway's agent, known as Shade, a shady character. Shade has another side plot going, and her secretive dealings are called into question, and also provides a background for could be another series, another book. So, there's plots within plots here. And then, of course, let's talk about Warlord, the big bad guy in the novel. What is his story? Where did he come from? Well, eventually, first of all, you're given one story, but by the end of the book, you're given kind of another story. Again, a separate plot line that could be another book or part of another book later on. So Warlord is just, picture your most evil, tyrannical, superpower bad guy, and that's him. But is he working for somebody else? Really, his story is a mystery too. The technology that is presented throughout the book is another character, essentially. It's an essential part of the plot. And the characters are wrapped up in the tech, which is a subtle, important point, is that technology and humans interweave, and that affects our humanity. And you see that very clearly in the book, particularly with Jackson and with Jane and with Warlord. So this subtle weaving of technology into the human psyche as well as the body. That's a key point here. But the technology here is really advanced, and at some point, you kind of think, oh, maybe this is too advanced. I don't believe it. But the other side of the story is some of the stuff is happening even today. So with young Jackson, the experience in the war for his home world, Gloss, that basically broke Jackson because his brain got hacked, right? He was wired into a mech, and the bad guys hacked him. Well, now Warlord and this planet Swindle enter the picture, and you've got a similar thing that is about to happen here. Jane, the mysterious IT genius who creates a wide variety of robots from the size of basically little mosquitoes to, large teddy bears with guns and rockets and missiles and all kinds of stuff on them. She can do anything. She attacks opponents with these little robots that can get in their eye, that can fight in zero grav, that can, again, shoot various weapons. It's amazing. And even healing robots that, act as little medics and doctors. So in many ways, these robots are believable today because look at what drones are doing in the Russian war with Ukraine, where tiny drones are defeating heavy tanks on the battlefield. However, Jane's powers in the novel become almost godlike, and that's why I use the term Deus Ex Machina, because that accounts for how the plot is resolved, is Jane's godlike powers, basically. This might just be the greatest weakness of the novel, but it's a lovable weakness because I think Jane's character has some significant development and again would lead into another book or series, I hope. Now, the orbital city above the planet Swindle is also part of the story. It's called Big Town. That's where Warlord lives along with the majority of the population of Swindle. And they go down onto the surface to harvest the CX. But see, there's also people who live on the surface. They're called the originals. And there are bases from Big Town on Swindle. So it becomes a big interaction between the people of Big Town and the people on Swindle and how they harvest the CX and fight off all the various wildlife monsters. Okay. So this is where a lot of the action takes place on Big Town as well as Swindle, and many surprises at the end there. But Big Town, picture, okay, it's not as big as Ringworld by Larry Nivens, but Rendezvous with Rama, I think it's going to be bigger than the Rama spacecraft, right? So it's in that category. I really like the characters of the good ship Tar Heel and hope, again, that there's a sequel. The message aspect of the book was not too preachy at all, at least not for me. I thought it was well done, and there was plenty of gray zones where, man, it's hard to discern right from wrong in some of these places. The lines get blurry. Basically, the big corporations and big governments are out for doing harm to everybody but them. You know, control, profit. And there's nothing wrong with profit. I mean, profit righteously done is a good, positive thing. So this is not anti-free market at all. I don't get that message in here, but it does take on big corporations that will chew up people for the next profit. See, so I think it's a righteous indictment. There's no sex scenes in the book, even though there's a bit of romance. And this may be the Mormon Factor by John Brown, for which I'm grateful. I'm not Mormon, but you know, there's a moral tone throughout the book that I find to be a very good positive, and that's really why I'm doing this review. There was no discernible LGBTQ issues presented. There may have been one joke in there about somebody they thought was gay, possibly, but that was it. There was one literary mention of the most dangerous game on page 232, and it seems like CX may be a subtle reminder of the spice of Ericus in Dune. The monster life on Swindle is definitely reminiscent of Correia's Monster Inc. books, for sure. The book is well written. It's exciting to read. It's got good characterization, complex plot with lots of subplots going on. The tech is pretty far in the future, but some of it's believable. If you like space opera, military sci-fi, this book is really quite good, and I can highly recommend it. And again, the A- grade for me is still quite high. It's going to be in the category of Michael Z. Williamson and Tom Kratman novels, David Weber, but I would put it as the lesser of those names mentioned, but generally speaking, in the same category perhaps, although Williamson and Kratman are much more rooted in reality in their stories, more gritty for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this edition of Stab the Dragon. I hope you get this book by Larry Correia and John Brown, Gunrunner, and that you'd enjoy it. Out here.